Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the J22 Report. I am your host, Johnnie Market. You all know that drill. Hit that like button, subscribe if you already haven't, and just disclaimer, nothing said on this podcast should be construed as financial advice. Do your own research and consult a professional advisor. So today we have a returning guest. I was going to say special, but yeah, special guest too. Returning special guest. Uh, he is the founder of AIH Sports, called the Sports Card Crash, founder of AIH Finance, called the Rise in Gold this year, when not many people were, and also the Hanky Panky Detective, the number one Hanky Panky Detective in the financial and sports car realm. We have Rahul. Rahul, welcome.
John, what's going on, man? What's going on?
Not much. So I'm glad we got because I'm going overseas. So I won't be able to
Oh,
do this. So we
okay.
generally had when we used to do this back in the day, we generally would do since going back to 2014 yearly wrap up. So wanted to continue that
Yeah,
tradition.
for
So
sure, for sure.
and the cool thing is we'll be sharing screens. So just if you want to share,
Yeah.
but since you are the number one hanky panky detective, let's get into your some hanky panky here. We'll get into you did some recent videos on Bitcoin. I've watched them. But let's get your thoughts. I'll show you the two tweets. This is Eric Stevens exposing Coinbase unjust treatment on chain traders. His account has been restricted for over a week, and he's given them ample time. I'm just going to paraphrase. I'm not going to read it word for word. He said he's basically given them ample time to resolve it, but the response is basically disappointing. So, and he goes on to another one, restricted my account without any explanation, 2 million in inaccessible assets. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, hopefully he has his account restored. Is this just the last few days still, or did he tweet about it recently, or?
No, he hasn't really retweeted about it recently much. I'll go. We'll do this in live time. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
pinned account,
It's a
so
pin. Oh,
he's
okay.
not
So it
pinning
seems
it.
like, yeah. So, yeah, it just shows you that phrase we learned long time ago. Remember in the silver hobby? Collectors,
You
if you
don't
don't
own it.
hold it, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. And anything electronic, and everyone says, "Hey, crypto is fantastic because it's electronic." It's the government's not going to go after it, but now the government tracks it. Now you have to pay taxes on it. So it just seems fishy that $2 million, unless he's engaging in, like I said, hanky panky. This is a bit worrisome because suppose you have a huge chunk of your money in one exchange and then you can't get it out. What are you going to do? I have a lot of my money in one brokerage account and I take money out. What if they say, oh, yeah, your account's restricted? So, what I would tell people is don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, you learned that phrase when you're younger. And I also think that some of these exchanges are going to go bust like what happened with FTX a few years ago. Even though I've made money in Coinbase and I have money in what Gemini, not too much. It's just that you see this pattern over and over and again.
TX, that's Sam Bankman-Fried, correct?
Yeah, FTX, yes, yes.
All right. So, well, the other thing too is people will always be like, to me at least, you didn't buy Bitcoin and whatnot, but this is the thing. This isn't the first time this has happened. There's FTX, Coinbase, Mt. Gox. This is a reoccurring pattern, and this is a risk you have to be aware. So, like,
Yeah,
would you?
exactly. Yeah, what are you saying?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, so whatever, if people are making money in Bitcoin, this is what I would do. I can't tell you exactly what to do, but if I made a huge chunk of Bitcoin, of money in Bitcoin, I would start scaling out and putting it in a bank that probably won't go bust in the next few years, because we've talked about this in a previous video where the commercial real estate crash is going to hurt some of these banks, and have some money to pay your taxes in the coming year, because I do believe that some people, unfortunately, are going to go into next year and the value of the Bitcoin may tumble, and they're going to, number one, have trouble paying their IRS bills. And then two, what if you have a banking crisis? Maybe the banking crisis may not happen Q1, but the following year, 2026, what are you going to do to pay the IRS at that point? I mean, I remember some people had trouble. It must have been, I think, with MF Global, where they couldn't pay their taxes and they were just left in the dust. I don't know if you remember MF Global, but it was just a hot mess.
Global. For all you Gen Z listeners out there, that was in 2011, where a lot of people lost a lot of things. And that's why I always say you should own something physical, even if it's going to go down in value, because something like this goes down, you don't own it. And just always remember, don't get cocky if you have a big brokerage account full of unrealized gains. You didn't make money until you sell.
Oh,
Things can go.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, I'm just starting to take profits, and I've put some money in, some of those safer banks, as Avi Gilbert has done his research and actually subscribed to it. And, one of the banks I found on my own and he found too. But the other one, I'm just starting to take money out of my account and put it there. It's not
Yeah,
that much,
that's
but a little bit each week.
Oh yeah. So, and always make sure, but in terms of the actual Bitcoin market, do you have any
Yeah.
predictions for 2025 or
Yeah. Let me share my screen if you don't mind. You don't
Sure.
mind, right?
No, no. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to show you a graph that a lot of people don't actually look at in terms of Bitcoin, but I think this is the most simple chart out there. It's reverse repos. And why do I talk about this all the time on my sports car channel and on this channel? Well, these are basically treasury securities that are sold by the Fed, and then there's a counterparty involved, and the counterparty may sell it to another party. And what I do for my day job is I deal with reverse repo accounting. And what I've noticed over the past few years is that this number has gone down and my workload has gone down as well. Maybe except month end or middle of the month, or when interest rates are just spiking. And then you see more activity between the counterparties and my firm. And how does this flow through the economy? Well, one party gets interest payments. So one party loans cash, and what happens is they get the treasury security, and then they return the treasury security, and then they get interest payment. It could mature or it could close. But anyways, what happened in 2022? Reverse repos hit about 2.5 trillion December of 2022. And that's when MicroStrategy and Coinbase pretty much bottomed out. And you could see this number going down all the way to $110 billion. In that, you've seen the stock market go up and Bitcoin go up. So going back to where do I see Bitcoin? What, next year you said?
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
can do a longer term. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be next year, just starting next year. And if it ends in 2029, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, if you want it to be 1 year, just
Yeah.
starting next year.
Yeah. Yeah. Starting, we could say next year. This thing's going to zero. And the liquidity, from my own opinion, based on what I've looked at, well, liquidity is almost drying out. And we're seeing what I believe is the blow off top in Bitcoin. And once this heads to zero, I think Bitcoin's moves, you won't have too much left in the tank. Okay, you may have a little QE here and there, but that's about it. And it's just going to be the reverse of 2022. So all the gains in Coinbase and MicroStrategy, which have high betas, well, in the downturn, these things could just crash big time. It's specifically, stocks like MicroStrategy. It's gone from like 100 something bucks to the equivalent of what, $4,000 right now per share. And that's going to tank hard, in my opinion. That's just a recipe for disaster. And yeah, I could have made a ton of money. I did make some in MicroStrategy, and a lot of people, unfortunately, are going to get burned in that. So, to answer your question, maybe January, the top is in. It could be even this month, but we're getting very close, and the reverse repo market is showing me that. And I don't want to keep on rambling on, but I do want to look at M2 money supply. And if you just look at the M2 over the past 5 years, oh, and this is not that M2. I have to find another chart. I'll probably we could come back to it later. I'll stop the share and
All right, that's fine. That
yeah,
actually, I saw money supply just go straight up. I was like, that's
yeah,
money
yeah, no,
supply.
no, no. That was beforehand, but I could find the money supply graph later on.
Yeah.
Actually, I found it right now if you want me to share it.
Oh, yeah, you can share it then if you
Yeah,
found it.
okay. Yeah, because I think it's helpful to the audience when we show these graphs.
Mhm.
Okay, so remember Robert Wenzel, the late Robert Wenzel? I think you interviewed him or your colleagues have interviewed him.
Him. I don't remember it now. It was such a long time ago on different
Okay,
channel.
I think, yeah, but I think your colleague interviewed
Oh,
him.
wait a
But
minute. Austrian school guy?
yeah, yeah, he
All right,
passed
yeah, I
away a
remember
couple of
him.
years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember him now. Yeah.
Okay, so his thesis is that increase in money supply fuels growth, whether we like it or not. And he looked at it from, stock market angle. What the weird part is, you see in May of 2022, this money supply is 21.6 trillion.
Yeah.
And then you see right now, October of 2024, you see the money supply at 21.3 trillion.
Yeah.
So you see a divergence where you've actually seen money supply decrease while Bitcoin has increased and the stock market has increased. This is a red flag for the economy, in my opinion, because the only liquidity or the liquidity pumping up markets was from reverse repos, in my opinion, and also you could argue the yen carry trade. What happens when all of that liquidity stops pumping up the system, especially when money supply has remained stagnant over the past few years while everything's ripping? I think the whole house of cards is ready to come tumbling down, in my opinion, unless they start pumping up M2.
Yeah. When you look at that
Yeah.
graph that you showed, I don't know if mine is shared, but yeah, the very top of 2022,
Yeah.
then when you go down, that's when the bear market sort of started, the bond bear
Yeah.
market.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then it does like a UV where it goes up again, and you can tell that's when
Right.
this blow off top started happening. New money
Right. Yeah. Maybe I
finally came in. And I mean, and it's not exactly like that, but that's just what first came
maybe.
to mind. My thoughts regarding Bitcoin is I've seen three things that show like we're in the middle of euphoria, and it's the old quote is I don't know exactly, but they begin off pessimism,
Yeah.
and then it's like rise in skepticism,
Yeah.
run through optimism, and then end in euphoria. And
Right.
I've seen full articles where Bitcoin could pay off the national debt.
Yeah.
And I was like, if that's not euphoria, I don't. These were people that 10 years ago were gold and silver guys and then turned Bitcoiner. And they used to say the debt can never be repaid. And now they're saying Bitcoin can do it. And I think I showed you this tweet. This one tweet's by Ranch Guy. I forget his name
Hmm.
or his Twitter handle, but he's saying stupidity won out. I'm gonna buy Bitcoin because I'm forced to.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was
you
like,
sent me that tweet. I'm like, okay, that we're getting close. We're getting
yeah,
real close. Like
oh
I
yeah,
listened to these traders and he said that one of these guys, a friend of a friend, they reached out to him saying, "Hey, look, what do you think about Bitcoin? I'm going to be putting 120 grand in it." And this was what, a month ago. So Bitcoin must have been what, 90,000, like high $80,000 range. And you're putting 100 grand right now when you could have actually put 100 grand in Bitcoin in December of 2022, around what, 16,000, 20,000, whatever it was. I don't know. It just seems weird where you
yeah.
could have bought five Bitcoins at that time and then you could have had 500K by now, but now you want to throw $120,000. Okay,
Yeah,
good
my
luck.
style, I just do this because I was burned 10 or 11 years ago. I haven't really been burned since, but I just buy when things are hated. So
Yeah,
I didn't get
exactly.
into Bitcoin because I knew about it when it was pennies or it was $100 and it was pennies before that. So I was like, markets rise like this, and the other thing is like everything, just the last thing, everything we were sold on it, like turn out like it's untraceable, it's not trackable. It's free from now you have free from government. Like none of it was true. And now governments are talking about a reserve, a strategic reserve. And it's
Yeah,
not
I
just
mean,
the US. It's well, I know Poland's one. Was I get that notes from Poland newsletter. And I don't know how it's gonna work. They said they're not gonna buy any at the moment, but they might adopt. They might just be saying that to be favor with Trump.
pandering. Yeah. What I find really strange is that when I do videos on my channel for Bitcoin now, they're quite different in tune than 2 years ago, where I was talking about, they were like boring videos. And I was talking about, hey, look, I think this is an opportunity in Bitcoin, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, Bitcoin itself, and not too many views. And now I have, I'm kind of trashing on Bitcoin because I said that this is probably not the best time to be buying. If you're trading, okay, and you're savvy at technical analysis, go for it. But the vast majority are not. And I see all sorts of these comments saying that I don't know what I'm talking about Bitcoin. We were there when Bitcoin started out. We understand what it's all about. And I just pointed out, is Satoshi even the creator? Especially when some of the evidence points at Paul Leroux as the creator of Bitcoin, who may have used it for money laundering.
Yeah.
And then two,
Oh, go
they
ahead.
oh yeah, and they said that this is not a hedge against government, but this is to protect yourself from the government and all that, and they can't trace it. And like you said, the government can trace this now. The government can also tax you on it. And all the stories that Bitcoiner wants us to believe, they're false. And they get mad at me because they can't refute me. Now, if you're talking about making money, yeah, you can make money in it if you know how to trade. But we're done from buy and hold stage, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not against trading in Bitcoin. You can always trade, but generally you want to invest when things are hated, not when they're
Exactly. Exactly.
when they're like, and I just want to point out that the last time the two of us agreed on the top was sports cards. So
Right.
if anyone
Right.
wants to hate, we're 1-0. We're undefeated at this.
Yeah, I
So
know. I mean, you have to watch that video because you weren't even involved in sports cards and you just did a video. Yeah, this thing's a bubble, and you said it doesn't have intrinsic value. And like, yep. Yep. That was like February and March of 2021. That was a real good call.
yeah.
And you
So
had no idea about sports cards to the extent of some of my viewers.
yeah.
And you called it. So good
Yeah,
job.
so And I still have one of my cards. I forget. Oh gosh, the background.
The Ovechkin. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
sold
still
mine.
have. I have. So I and yeah, the way I invest also is just like if I can hold it, but hold it for a while, I don't have to
Yeah,
worry about it because
right.
one thing is like I guess I'll switch to well, this didn't happen, but I'm not going to switch to gold yet, but junior miners right now, if you want to get out of them, you have to do a limit order. Like it's so illiquid. And I remember talking to a coworker who speculated in Bitcoin a couple of years ago, went from like 1 to 20K.
Okay.
And he was talking about how it took him 3 days to get a buyer of the one coin he bought.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's why I'm saying now's the time because when Bitcoin starts going down, you don't know how long it is till you get a buyer, and you might have to do a limit order.
yeah, the thing is it's very volatile. So I think people, if they don't have too much Bitcoin, they could probably get out of it. And not every market goes down in a straight line. But you know how the sentiment is people are like, oh yeah, it's a correction. It'll go back up. It'll go back up. It always goes back up. And then they realize, oh, Bitcoin's again at $15,000 and the year is 2027, whatever it is. And right now, people are like, oh, Bitcoin has just gone up from 100,000 to 106,000 last night. So it's going to keep on going higher. Everyone's saying it's going to go to 180,000. But people don't understand. I mean, it could go to that level, but I wouldn't risk it. I mean, I'm looking at you talked about miners and some of these stocks. Coinbase can't even get a bid right now. So I stopped trading the options for that. Now
Oh,
some
wow.
other miners are picking up, but they still haven't outperformed their 2021 um, stellar performance.
Yeah.
So
Well, I, yeah, so I think we talked a lot about Bitcoin. I think
yeah,
so since we're on somewhat limited time, I'm going to switch to Bitcoin's trading partner, the stock market. And if you actually look at how it trades, Jordan Royburn of the Daily Gold, he
right.
did a beautiful chart. It literally goes with the Nasdaq. And so, what are your opinions on the stock market? Start this year, it can be for the year or starting the year and whichever date.
A lot of Elliott Wave guys that we follow think it's going to be somewhere, the top is going to be around 6,200-ish to 6,400 on the high end. And the way that I'm looking at it is once again, the liquidity is coming from the reverse repo market and the yen carry trade. Should those reverse, the stock market will have difficulty, in my opinion, going higher. Now there is QE, which could persuade people to, jump in, especially the retail crowd. But right now, I'm not putting long-term positions for the stock market. They are strictly right now trading and just looking at, what the trend follower trend followers look at. They're extremely bullish. They don't think the market's going down. And when I see that type of sentiment from traders, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be buying more put options a year and a half out, 2 years out. I don't know what you think about the market, but that's just my own thought process, especially the banks. I'm buying just put options with some of these profits, like every day, $100 put options 2 years down the road, 1.5 years down the road.
Yeah, when I look at the stock market, I just look at n- if you there's always a saying when there's no more buyers left and all there's left is s- people that can sell, that's when the top and I see asset managers, they're at record allocations. Retail is now at record, and foreigners are actually at a record position in US stocks. I don't. Yeah, a lot of like Ellioticians I find they think the top is coming somewhere between 6,500 S&P to 6,000. I just look at sentiment and I think this has to be near a top or if not a top, just because I've even seen gold newsletters turn bullish, like on the stock market, saying there's one last run in gold, but stocks are going to win out. And if you also look at it, the bifurcation, the Magnificent Seven, I think it's a record low amount of stocks outperform the S&P 500.
Yeah.
I remember reading that on Twitter.
Let me add though, the weird part about this rally is the stock market has gone up on a stronger dollar. So what we could see in this blow off top mania is the dollar weakens and then it just like things just start to go crazier than what we've seen it right now. So Tesla could go crazier. I should have kept Tesla, but things like that could go a bit cuckoo. And that's what I'm looking at right now because I expect the dollar index to trend lower. I could be wrong. I have a forex position in the euro right now. I'm betting for a higher euro. But yeah, that's just my own thought process. So we could get we could blow through the 6,300 target. David Hunter thinks we're going to get to 7,500. So I'm keeping my eyes open or I'm keeping, all these options open, but the Elliott wave guys have gotten it more right than wrong. So I'd be paying attention to them.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is Warren Buffett has a record cash position, and he's also been really selling out of banks. I remember one
Bank of
day
America, yeah.
he's. Do you remember that he sold every day until he got down to 10% or the report got below the reporting requirements and then just dumped everything. He was just slowly selling. So Warren Buffett, who got out of the regional banks, and even though he doesn't say he uses this publicly, I still think he uses Austrian economics publicly. He may
His
not buy
dad,
gold, but yeah, his dad, Howard Buffett, was a very fierce one. And you see his banking, he's selling the banks, he's having record cash. He clearly thinks something's happening, but he's not going to say publicly.
yeah,
And
if you're getting rid of Bank of America, was he buying Bank of America during the pandemic? Not pandemic, but in 2008,
yeah,
2009.
yeah, he was
So he was
buying
buying
Goldman
on,
Sachs, Bank of America, everything.
and now he's selling. So I'm just wondering what he thinks. He's not going to say it because he doesn't want to panic people. So if he's seeing that, I mean, I have a bunch of put options in Bank of America. I don't know how many, but I think I may just add more put options based on if I get more profits
Yeah.
because if he's selling,
Yeah.
something's up. Could be
Oh,
wrong though.
oh yeah. So yeah, we probably I think the stock market's probably coming to a top this year. But I don't know. Gosh, this Zoom has like roughly 9 minutes, so we'll
We could do more if you want, if you want
oh okay.
to
So
if
we can
you
do a
want to split
part
in two,
two.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
Fine.
yeah, we can do a part two. So
Yeah.
we'll finish up with the stock market, then part two will be other stuff. But yeah, so anyway, there was Warren Buffett, there's all these and they said FOMO, fear of missing out, is at an
Yeah.
all-time high in the
Oh
stock
yeah.
market.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people see Donald Trump and they think that Donald Trump, and I don't want to get into politics here. Whatever people believe, I'm not trying to, get into that debate. So a lot of people are enthusiastic about Mr. Trump. So they're like, hey, look, let me put my money in for all of these stocks. And you saw that run up post election, or actually a few days before the election, you started to see the market pricing it in that he would win. So you see, stocks like Tesla was going up like crazy, Coinbase because of, and MicroStrategy because of Bitcoin. I think you saw Goldman Sachs rip. You saw like everything rip. People were making money left and right. And I think you saw the semiconductors, they got hit though. They haven't kept up with the rally in the stock market. Now, I do have some semiconductors as a trade, but you did see other sectors like China, they took a dip, except maybe 1 or 2 days last week where it ripped. So you're kind of seeing, the Trump trade in action. A lot of people see Elon Musk hanging out with Trump, and every day Tesla's going up. I shouldn't have sold, 2 or 3 weeks ago, but what is up $26 again? So yeah, T so that's definitely on the up and up, and it could go even crazier. So yeah, that's what we're seeing right now. Gold took a dip as well, and it could continue on. But once again, I remind people there isn't too much liquidity because of what's going on with the reverse repo market.
Speaking of liquidity and everything, the Fed is now cutting rates. They are probably expected to cut again in December, if not already. And
And I think 2 days.
yeah, in 2 days. And are they looking at your money supply chart? Do you think they're, or what do you think has motivated though?
I'm pretty sure they're looking at money supply, and I think the yield curve uninverted yesterday, and I think they're just being very optimistic about the economy, but they know something is up behind the surface, especially with commercial real estate, with what I think it's trillions of dollars of loans that will need to be paid next year.
Yeah, they're actually due. A lot of them are due in 2025. I'd save that for a
Yeah, we could talk
video.
about that. Yeah, we could talk about that later if you like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Actually,
mean,
there's only like 5 minutes left. How about we
yeah,
end part one?
sure.
And
Let's
then
go to part two.
part two will be in and I'm gonna post these simultaneously
Okay.
for those not just telling you but telling the audience for those listening. So if I post this, this will probably be posted soon after. So anyway, we're gonna end this one. Part two coming up.
Okay.
Don't don't miss that video.